Good day, everybody. My name is Bernard Paul. I'm a psychologist here at Stabilis Rehabilitation Center, working here for the last 25 years. And for today, I'm going to discuss a question which I get so often from family members, is how do I get my son, my daughter, my spouse, my father, my mother, my colleague, my friend, motivated or willing to be admitted into a rehab. And people, if there were an easy answer to that question, it would have been wonderful. I think that's one of the biggest frustration loved ones are sitting is when they can see their loved ones are battling with addiction, but they're not willing to admit to it. And I'm going to give you three different ways which I've seen pretty often. And please don't think that any of these three approaches or alternatives are miracle cures and will work, because in the end of the day, the only person who can truly decide being admitted is the client himself. It's not the loved ones, it's the client himself. It's a decision which he or she needs to make for themselves. Nobody can make a decision. Our minister have once said to a group that in all the years he'd been working at Stabilis, he was never been able to help anybody who's not willing to be helped. So people need to unfortunately hear that part as well. So I repeat myself by saying it always remained a decision which the client himself or herself need to make. Nobody can make it for them on their behalf. So I think the first one, which I've seen pretty often, is what they call tough love. That's when love members would set an ultimatum down. So just hypothetically, they would say to their son, we are going to test you, and if a test results is positive for whether it's for cocaine, whether it's for heroin, whether it's for crystal, we are going to. And then that ultimatums is something which they need to figure out for themselves. To what extent are they comfortable in doing so? And if you're not comfortable in following through with those ultimatums, don't put them on the table, because then it means nothing. Then the client would know in advance you are bluffing him or her. So the first one is what we call tough love. That's when you are willing to prepare to do certain things if he or she is positive for any of those particular substances. The second approach, which I've also seen pretty often, is what they call a group intervention. That's where all the family members would have a sit down with a particular client, and then they would confront him or her about what has happened within a certain time frame. And that normally what they would call particular facts, where they would say, but this is what happened on the 3rd of January. So then you confront them by making use of a group of people which are close to a particular client. But again, you bring facts. That's not bringing emotions. So it makes me feel, not that type of approach, but is literally you call out the particular incidences which has happened. And that it's not typically just the mom or the dad or the wife saying, my husband is having this or my child is having this, because quite often they would say, but it's a very subjective perspective. So when it's a group intervention, it's not just one person, then it's a whole group, and it's their approach and their beliefs, not just a one person believing that particular client do have a problem. And then the third one, which I'm by far more a fan of, and not because I don't think that the first and the second one is not alternatives. I think they're always alternatives. But I think the reason why I'm not such a fan of it, people quite often would say and do what the loved ones would like to hear for that particular moment in time. But the moment when they arrive at a center, they change their mind. Because motivation is then very much external. It's not an internal motivation. And I'm a very firm believer that the greatest and Motivation which lasts the longest is internal motivation. It's a decision which you've made. So the last one is to, and I've said this many times in my previous videos, is to create a space where you can have a sit down with your loved ones, one-on-one, but a space where you feel that it's a neutral ground, where he or she do not feel threatened. So I would normally say find a place or a space where you feel that he or she would feel comfortable to talk to you. And you have a sit down and you talk to them what you are concerned of. You ask them questions. But again, it's creating a space where they feel safe to discuss with you what they are struggling with. Because 9 out of 10 times, they know. That particular client know. But it's something which they feel so ashamed of, that to admit to something which you feel so ashamed of is not so easy. So I believe firmly, if you can create a space and you've got a really good relationship with a particular client, you can do wonders by discussing and talking and sharing your concern and why you are concerned for their behalf. Not because for your own sake, but for their sake. Please feel free to contact Stabilis at any given time in regards to this particular topic. And again, like I said before, it's not an easy topic. It's an extremely difficult topic. And let's see how we can help. Thanks for listening. Please take care. Look after yourself.